Hey enablers, Mike Kunkle here, and welcome to this week's edition of Sales Enablement Straight Talk. This week, we're going to talk about how to swim upstream like a trout, also known as how to influence your boss to do the right thing with enablement. Let's dig in. Sometimes I think to myself, self-enablement really shouldn't be this hard. But the truth is, it is. It's a reality. Not everyone knows everything that we know about organizational performance improvement. Not everyone knows all of the details and things that are in the building blocks of sales enablement or how to actualize those and put them into place in the sales force. And frankly, not everyone actually needs to. The truth is, senior sales leaders have other things on their mind. They have a ton of pressure. Think about that 18 to 24 months average tenure and the pressure that they feel. Our job is to help them get the results that they want. And the truth is, yes, sometimes they get in their own way. Sometimes CEOs and other executives get in their own way of doing the things that will actually enable growth. So it's our job to influence up and to manage these expectations to help people understand what's required, or at least enough to get the support in the budget that we need to help them get where they want to go. And that's what I want to talk about today. The first piece of this, something that will be foundational to helping us influence, is to conduct a situation assessment with CoinOp and do a gap and impact analysis. The situation assessment is very easy conceptually. On the left side, you see the current state and the challenges and opportunities that are there and the impacts of not addressing them, of not solving the challenges or enabling those opportunities. We'll jump to the far right, point B, the desired future state, where you determine the outcomes that people want to achieve and the priority of those outcomes. Then you can do the gap analysis that helps you identify the needs. What will be required to close the gap and move to the desired future state? Then you can do an impact analysis comparing the impacts of the current state to the outcomes of the desired future state, which can help you identify compelling business issues to solve and then tie them to strategic objectives and determine the impact of them. If you dollarize that, and then later compared to the cost of the solutions you recommend, you can even begin to forecast ROI. This all will help you prioritize and execute accordingly. And in getting this information, it also allows you to start to frame and speak to the senior sales leader or other executives about how what you want to do and what you need can help them get what they want. This is the foundation for influence. Now, let's talk about when you're influencing, understanding first, what are the value drivers that people have? And this is something we teach sellers, that there is a value stack and it's filled with air, awareness, interest, and relationship. We say that every deal needs air to breathe, and in this case, it's every idea needs air to breathe. In interest, that explodes out to these value drivers. People either have a business value need, they need to see a meaningful impact on financial or operational metrics. Perhaps they have an experiential value need. They need to see an improvement of day-to-day processes and how things are done. Think candidate experience, employee experience, customer experience, right? Reducing the friction to work with you. Others may have aspirational value. Very often at senior levels in organizations, there's a need to align with the mission, vision, values of the organization and perhaps certain initiatives like sustainability or DEI. And then everyone has personal skin in the game. They may not always in the beginning trust enough to share that, but it's there. There is something that influences them that they are trying to get out of this, or a way to get a promotion or recognition or achievement, whatever it might be. There's some personal value. And in understanding these value drivers, it will help you communicate in ways that resonate with the other person. Now, these value drivers can also just be a piece of the puzzle of communication. Look on the left and you'll see the POSE value story format: problem, outcome, solution, explore. It's a great way to build a case. It's a great way to talk to people in terms of the problems that they have that you can solve to help capture interest. Now imagine if you're telling a POSE value story and you weave in ethos, pathos, and logos. The ethos would be the credibility of your understanding of the problem or the outcomes they're looking for, or data and facts and figures you can share to make it more compelling, or the experience and expertise that you display. All can help build credibility. And then pathos, emotion, can be weaved into the story about the frustrations or concerns or stress of the problem and the relief and satisfaction and achievement of the outcome. And then logos, of course, the logical steps that you would take in the solution to solve the problem and deliver the outcome. And if in telling that story, you weave in the right value drivers for the people or person you're speaking to, now you are going to be able to storytell in a way that is very influential. This is something else to consider when you're influencing up and managing upstream to influence your boss to do the right thing with enablement. Another factor that can help you is that very often people that are running companies, or senior sales leaders especially, the hard driving type A people, are what I often refer to jokingly as the 3 bullet point people. They have to communicate with them, whether it's in email or other forms of writing, or if you're talking to them, they need to hear 3 punchy bullet points, right? And then, of course, on the other side of that equation, there very often are the analytical people like us who gravitate toward performance improvement type of roles in sales enablement, sales effectiveness, revenue enablement, commercial excellence, whatever we call ourselves this week. We tend to be the people really digging into the details about how the gears turn and what needs to be done to do a needs analysis or to build the proper solution or to execute and implement effectively. And sometimes the way in which we communicate with all of our detail is almost overwhelming for the 3 bullet point people who need to cut to the chase. And so be aware of the differences in communication styles. You may be the 3 bullet point person, and someone else may be the real detailed person who needs to understand more about what's behind those bullet points. It could flip, sure, and there may be other styles as well, but keep in mind sometimes that if you're communicating a tremendous amount of detail to a 3 bullet point person, a lot is going to be lost in the translation, or you may lose their interest entirely. Something to be aware of. Now, here's something that we often teach our sellers that can really help us as well when we're trying to manage upstream. And what you're looking here is what I call mapping the buyer landscape. In this case, it's really just mapping the stakeholder landscape. On the left side, you can see that you're mapping where they are in terms of being negative, neutral, or positive toward you or the solution you're recommending. Across the bottom, you see influence level. They're an influencer to some degree, could be little, could be great. They are an actual decision maker, one of the people who can grant you approval to move forward, or maybe there's someone lurking behind the scenes that even they have to go get approval from. And I call this the business version of pin the tail on the donkey. You put people in on this chart where they are, and then whether they are perhaps a financial decision maker, they're controlling the budget. Maybe they're a feasibility decision maker, they're determining whether this solution is feasible and fits in the culture and whether they believe it will work, or they're a functional decision maker, someone who's really impacted at the front lines about what you're recommending and will be involved in it. And then, of course, if they're positive, and depending upon their level of influence, Are they a coach perhaps who can help you and offer advice on working with certain people? Or are they a full-fledged champion with the oomph to make a decision, the political capital to influence others, and the willingness to advocate for you even in your absence? If you plan people out and plot them out on this chart, you can step back and think about, who do I need to influence? Who do I need to move in one direction or the other? And what is my plan going to be to do that? It allows you to strategize. Another aspect of managing upstream. One of the other things that you can do is read about ways to have these kinds of conversations, especially when you believe or know that it's not going your way. And these are just some of the books that I have seen and read over the years that have been helpful. Difficult conversations, crucial conversations, fierce conversations, I thought was great. Working with Humans, which isn't as well known yet, but it was a great book. And then Radical Candor. All of these can give you ideas about, how do you prepare for, how do you manage, how do you conduct these kinds of conversations where you're trying to influence others and make something happen. Food for thought and other things that you can dig into. Two other things to consider. One, of course, is learning more about negotiation. And I'm not talking about the gambits and tactics that we teach sometimes in tactical negotiation, right? The things that buyers are taught how to flinch or throw junk or other tactical negotiation gambits. I'm talking here more about collaborative, partnership oriented, win-win type of negotiation, collaborative negotiation. Learning those techniques can also be very helpful. And then the other concept, the other N here, is nurturing. Sometimes if you can't influence something in the moment, or you're perceiving a barrier that you're not quite sure how to overcome in the moment, you can step back and nurture over time. You can find content from third-party experts that actually supports your point of view. You can find other educational things and research that might actually support it. And you can drip these things out to the people you're trying to influence over time with a little note from you, and just try to shape the thinking and opinions of people over time. This has actually worked well for me in some cases, and I recommend you think about how you might nurture people in the direction that you want to go eventually. Now, there is more detail about this in the written newsletter, and I'll drop a link to that in the description for this video. But here's a way to start to put all of this together, right? Is understanding the other side's priorities, building the strong case with the situation assessment, anticipating concerns we haven't talked about. If you understand the concerns that they might have, you can begin to think about how you'll navigate them and resolve them. Establishing credibility, of course, part of ethos, pathos, logos. Tailoring your message, we've talked about. Creating a win-win scenario where everyone gets what they want, especially the executive team or your senior sales leader. Building relationships, of course, part of AIR. Considering the timing of when you make an approach to talk about something like this can be important. Being flexible and open to feedback, being able to be agile, something that will be important. Maybe there's information that you'll learn in talking with the executive team that you don't know, that you'll want to step back and consider. And then, of course, practicing effective communication, maybe using ACC, acknowledge what the other person has said and any emotions around it with empathy, then clarify to dig in and peel the onion and truly understand, and then confirm and summarize what they've said to ensure understanding. Just simple, effective communication can go a long way toward getting people together. Well, folks, I hope this has been helpful. There is more information in the written newsletter, and I have dropped a link in the body of the description for this video. Join up, sign up on LinkedIn to get this weekly, and please subscribe while you're here to the YouTube channel. I hope this information is helpful as you manage upstream to get what you want to support the Salesforce and organization and getting the outcomes that they want, because that's really what our job is all about. Stay the course and make an impact with enablement.